Great. From today, we are going to learn some good concepts, the core concepts of RPA. So we are now into module 5, which is key constructs of a desktop flow. In this topic, we are going to learn different topics like the unified recorder, unified in the sense one single recorder for all type of applications, web, desktop, and so on. Copilot recorder. It's not enabled for my ID right now because we just created it at the beginning of this course. What Microsoft is doing is they are releasing it in a staggered manner to different IDs. So if you have not used an ID for a long time, it doesn't release it soon. However, I do have another ID which I have been using since a long time. When I switch, I sign out from my current ID and go to that ID. At that time, I will show the Copilot recorder in another session. So that's about Copilot recorder. Then we'll be doing the interactions with various UI elements like text boxes, reading, writing, interacting with drop-down lists, checkboxes, option buttons, submit buttons, links. And these were the UI elements and how to make use of selectors to point to the accurate UI elements uniquely. We'll be seeing different web and desktop application selectors, how they differ from each other. How to test your selector once you have built it so that it correctly captures the right UI element. Then modifying a selector using there is something called as a text editor. Using that toggle you can modify your selector, because just based on the default selectors that the pad tool will give you, you won't be able to interact some of the applications. You will have to modify it, you will have to customize it, make it dynamic with the help of variables and operators and so on. And then the feature of multiple selectors and the fallback mechanism feature. Finally, the collections feature. So we are now in the unified recorder. So recording a desktop application using the recorder is what we are going to do now. So we are talking about desktop application now. Let's check that out. I've started a new desktop flow called as mod5, the blank canvas. Now let's take a desktop application example of a calculator that we have in our Windows operating system, which everyone will have, so nothing needs to be installed. So if you see the top section, this is the recorder button, the unified recorder that I have been talking about. Let's do a simple recording. I click on the recorder. I'll keep one blank background screen so that it's easy to view. Okay. So the recorder is still opening. It doesn't take much this much time, but right now many applications are open with me. Yeah, this is the recorder window. So the recorder window consists of the record button. Once you click this record button or this record button, it will start the recording. And let's say if something has gone wrong, you want to restart it, then you click the reset button. Later on, we are going to learn image recording in our different session. Here, you can directly launch the browser so that it will record the same. And in our example, we are going to use the calculator application. So I'll even record the launch of the application from the start menu. So I go ahead and click on record, click the start menu. Type calculator, click on this app. If you can see on the right hand side, two actions are generated. Yeah, there it is, the third one. Now I click on 4. 4 should be typed at the top. There it is, plus is typed, 6 equal to, that's the message. Now to read this value, I hover my mouse on this and it shows the text in red border. I right click on it, So it shows these many options. What I want to do is, oops, it has disappeared by itself. I right click again. I use the get name display is 10 because that is where it's showing me the value of 10. Yeah, that's got recorded over here. Let me recheck everything before I confirm the recording. Pressing the start button, typing calculator using send keys, then clicking on the calculator app in the start menu, then pressing the 4 button, pressing the plus button, 6 button, equals button, and capturing the display 10. So now I click on done. I'll close the calculator because we are going to run it through the just recorded actions. Yeah, there it is. Can you see the actions generated by the recorder? So the first one is the comment. If I double click it, it says start of auto generated actions using the recorder. Likewise, at the end you will see end of auto generated actions. The first is the press button in the window, that is the start button. If I double click on it, so this stack of UI elements, if I hover my mouse on it, it will show at the top the preview of that UI element. Can you see the start menu, the Windows start menu at the top? Okay, click on close. Then if you remember, as soon as I clicked on start menu, it took some time to open up the start menu itself. So there is an automatic wait for 2 seconds. Send keys for the typing of the word calculator. Then clicking on the UI element, let's see which one it is. I hover the mouse on the stack of UI elements. Can you see it shows the calculator menu from the start menu. There it will click. Likewise here you should see the 4 button. Yeah, there it is. 6 button, this should be the equals button. Yeah, there it is. And then finally the 10 displayed. Yeah, now this value get details of UI element window is stored in a output variable called attribute value. You can rename that variable if you need it. Now let's display the value of that variable at the end. The variable name was attribute value. Click save. Okay. So I start from the main run. The execution is on line number 2, that is the start button. I can see the start button has pulled up the menu. It will type on calculator. Click the calculator app. We had a wait of 2 seconds also. Launch the calculator. Click 4, then plus, then 6, then equal to. Capture the text of the output and show it in the message box as displays 10. Good with the desktop application recorder. Any queries on this so far? Okay. Right now my run delay at the bottom is at 100 milliseconds. I've kept it the default because we are doing UI based interaction. Let's keep it that way. Now what do we have next? Recording a web application. So let me open a sample web application. I'll give this link to you guys also. What I'll do is I'll give it at the end of the course and not ping it in between. So this W3 Schools web page, what it does is on the left hand side it shows the HTML code, on the right hand side is the output of this HTML code. So what we need is the right hand side. So temporarily I'll move this to the left and keep this part open. Now we are going to record a web application. Let me do it using a new subflow. Record web application. Okay, I'll click on the recorder. Wait for the recorder window to show up. When you'll do it, you'll see that it will show up immediately on your screen. Okay. I pull it to the right so that I can interact with the elements on the left. Now, when I'm going to write to these text boxes, I'm going to show you two different ways. We are now into writing something to a text box using the recorder. I start the recorder. I wait for it to identify the element. There it is, input text. I click inside it and type a name. I can see the URL being launched, attached. Click inside the text box. Look like there is a delay. I'll do it one more time. Let's see if the action is generated on the right hand side. Yeah, there it is. This time I'll right click on the second text box. And now I will use the populate text field option. The first way was directly writing to it. The second is populate text field option. Now as soon as I use that feature, it gives me a blank text box to enter some value. I enter a value and click on add text. So that should get generated. Before I click on submit, let's see if everything is fine. URL, populate input text in the first name box. Okay, I can see left click twice is done. So I don't need this. I'll remove it. Then the L name, that is the last name. I typed in Do. So far so good. Now again, two ways. I can directly click the submit button, or I can right click on it and use the press button over here. As soon as I press, it goes to the next page and shows whether the F name and last name, whatever I had typed in, were correct or not. Now I click on done, and our actions for the web application recorder should be generated. There it is, the comment, start and end comment. Now this is launching the new Microsoft Edge action, but inside that, can you see it is attaching to an existing URL. Now why it has done that is because I had the browser window already opened before running the recorder. So what it does is, in that case, it attaches to a running instance. Whereas if you want to run the browser itself from start, if you want to launch the browser, you will use the launch new instance action. In that case, what you will do is take the URL, launch new instance, and in the URL section, paste the URL. And the other drop downs are if you want to open the window in maximized mode, minimized mode, or normal mode. So right now I'll click cancel because I have changed this part. So it is attaching to an already existing opened browser tab on my machine. Next action is populate the text field on web page. I had typed in John using one of the ways in the first name text box. I hover the mouse on the stack of elements. There it is, the John text box. Now I use the second option, but if you can see, both are the same actions. I double click it. This time it's the last name. Click on cancel and finally press the submit button. Let's run and see. Now for that I need to bring my page to the original position. If I click on this run button, it will run the HTML code that is there on this web page and bring back to its original state. That is on the original state. Now I right click and run from here. Attached, it has automatically switched to the window. It has typed in John, went to the second box, typed in surname and clicked on submit. And since it is showing as John and Doe over here, this means that it has correctly submitted the values and clicked on the submit button. Clear with the web-based recorder for web application recorder. Okay, what's next? After this Copilot recorder, I'll show you in a different session. Now, common operations of reading, writing values from and to text boxes. For that, I will open a different web page. I will create a new subflow. Now we are interacting with text boxes, and even submit button will be there. Now we wrote values to it. Now we are writing values. I'm sorry. We wrote values. We are going to read the values now. So now I have opened a different web page where already pre-filled values are there in these text boxes. What we are going to do is we are going to read a value of a text box. So writing was what I showed earlier using the recorder. So again, I click on the recorder, wait for the window to open up, pull it aside so that I can work on it. Now click the record button and hover the mouse on the text box. I wait until it identifies the element. This happens quickly, but right now it's not happening so soon. So input text, input is an HTML tag for text boxes. If I right click on it, yeah, we don't want to populate text field. This time we want to extract the element value, and it has correctly identified the value as John over here. So I click on that. I can see two correct actions: attaching to the URL tab, then getting the details of element in a web page. That is the fname text box. I click on done. There it is. The actions are generated. Two simple actions, one for attaching to an existing URL. Second one is getting the details of an UI element, that is a text box in this case. If I hover my mouse, I can see the first name text box, and the value it's stored in is inner text. Now what we do is simply print this inner text to see whether it has captured it correctly. Save. Let me bring back the web page to its original state by clicking on run. Yeah, it's refreshed, and now I run from here. It will automatically identify the window that matches that URL. If it doesn't match, it will throw an error. The bot has started. There it is, the message box, the value pulled up from the first message box. This was about reading values from an UI element, that is text box in this case. What do we have next? Clicking buttons. So we clicked on submit button using the recorder. If you remember, when we typed in John, we typed in second name Doe and clicked on the submit button. So that is the way to click the buttons. Either you right click on it, or let's do one thing. I'll show you another feature. So I'll do it in the text box section itself. So this time I will use the recorder of an existing recorded flow actions and submit the button. So I use the recorder, go to our web page. So this is what you are asking, Kirtish. If you want to go ahead and re-add the actions, continue the recorder. So now we are doing the same. We have extracted the value John already. Now we are going to click the submit button. Now earlier what we did was, let me hover the mouse and wait for it to identify the element. Yeah, input submit. I right click on it. In the earlier section we used the press button, but this time let's use a perform left click on the element. So these two options, they depend on the website also. As you know, different websites are built using different technologies. So some websites might support the press button option, whereas some websites might the click on left click on the UI element option that I just used. So that's why I intentionally wanted to show you the second option also. So both of the actions are ready. I click on done. I bring this back to the original state until then. Yeah, can you see? So new set of actions have been generated. So I think My cursor was not on the right position, so it has inserted somewhere in between. So we don't want, okay, can you see it starts from line number in between it has inserted. So I drag this down, and initially what we had done is launch the URL, get the text from the first text box, display the message John. Since we re-recorded it, it again launched the URL. I'm going to straight away delete this, and this time press the submit button. So let's go ahead and run from here. Attached to the existing URL, fetch the name John, display it in a message box. I need to click on OK, and then it will go on to the click of the submit button. Yeah, there it is. It has highlighted in yellow, and the names are also correct. So we re-recorded an already existing recorded application flow. So that was the second way of interacting with a button. So selecting drop-down list values, how to interact with the drop-down list values. We have seen text boxes, buttons, reading, writing. Remember, we are still in the recorder section. We are not using any pre-built actions. Okay, this is a web page which has got a drop-down list of cars and a submit button. So by default, the first selection is Volvo. What we will do is we will click the last one, that is Audi. I create a new subflow. For drop downs, then use the recorder. Okay, we are ready with the recorder window. Now I click on record and hover the mouse and wait for it to detect the element. So I believe a select tag, yeah, the select element, that's the one in HTML. If it's not identifying, just move your cursor aside and bring it back. Why is it not identifying yet? Let's simply re-record it. Okay, I click on recorder. Start the recording. Yeah, it has started identifying the elements. That's the submit button. We want the drop down box. There is the select. I right click on it to see what all actions and operations and features does it give. So this is for sending a right click. I definitely don't want that. I want to select the drop down. When I click on that, it shows me the values inside the drop down. So now I click on Audi and click on OK. Two actions are correctly generated, so everything looks fine. I will click on perhaps the submit button now. Now let's do a direct click on the submit button. Earlier we used two other features, press button and left click on UI element. Now press button in web page is automatically captured. I click on done. There it is. One, attach to URL, select drop down list value on web page. Let's see what features does it have. I'll hover the mouse. Everything looks good. Now it has got these options. Select options by name. Now by default, we are doing it using the name Audi. Okay. You can even hard code any other text you want, or by index, that is 0, 1, 2, 3 of the drop down, or clear all the options. If something is selected, if you want to clear it, you can use that and click on save. Then finally press the submit button. Let's bring the web page back to its original state. There it is. Now the drop down shows Volvo. It should change to Audi and submit. That's it. It's showing me as Audi. Worked fine. A few things I want to show because we might require it in the upcoming sessions. Why it is showing as cars equal to Audi? Because this is the select HTML tag for a dropdown, and the name and the ID of this dropdown is cars, and that's why the value of cars is whatever was selected. Therefore, it is showing me as cars is equal to Audi. This is something related to HTML. You can learn it from this website itself, W3 Schools. If you want to learn more about HTML, yeah, at the top you have HTML, and it's a good website for tutorials for different other technologies also. You need other technologies also, I'll tell you at the right time. As you can see on the left hand side, there are different sections for HTML. It's a proper tutorial. It's a good website. I'll ping you the links after the end of the session. So dropdown is done. Any questions on dropdown? After dropdown, we have checkboxes, how to interact with checkboxes using the recorder. Okay, I will move this to the left. So we have 3 checkboxes, and using the bot, we are going to check one of the boxes and click the submit button. And by the way, let me go back to the earlier assignment. We were talking about instance variable. So now could be the time to explain that. The Edge new browser has produced a browser instance type of variable, and whatever URL you have used here and the browser variable generated out of that, you'll have to use the same browser instance in this drop down when asked. Okay, for interacting with that particular browser instance application. Same for the submit button, you'll have to use that same browser instance variable over here. If you had any other application, let's say you had browser 1 as an instance, then you would use that. When I go to the variable sections, can you see a browser instance variable, web browser instance? Yeah, I've opened it. At the moment we don't need these properties values, but I just wanted to show web browser instance. Okay, we are in checkboxes. Is our web page opened? Yes. Let's click the recorder. By the way, I'm reducing this from the top is because I can see the done window. That's why I'm doing it this way. So start the recorder. Hover the mouse on the required UI element, wait for it to identify. There it is. So this is the label part. We don't want the label, we want the checkbox part. So as I hovered over it, it showed me as input checkbox. Let me do a right click on it. What do we want? The right click did not register, so let me redo it. Oops, it's flashing the screen and going away. Let's try another one. Can you guys see one small pop-up window, context menu is coming and it is going away? This doesn't happen actually when I do it without my recorder window and the meeting invite window. So let's do one thing, straight away click here instead of from the right click. Let's see if it gets registered. Yeah, there it is. Set the checkbox state in web page, and finally, so we have clicked the second tick box and finally click on the submit button. So third action is generated. I click on done. Both ways are possible. The one that I showed, you can directly use the checkbox, but what it does is you can select an option whether you want to check it or uncheck it when you right click. So this is the action. So what you can do is you can, if you want to check it, you use the checked drop down or unchecked drop down, and when I hover my mouse, that's the second checkbox Let's see if it works fine. It will. And let's bring this back to the original state and run from here. So if already a checkbox is checked, you can uncheck it, and vice versa also. There it is. We'll click on submit button and vehicle 2. So the names are ID of vehicle 2 is given, and why is it vehicle 2 car? Did we press car? No, right? Oh, correct. Yeah, second one was the car, right? So, okay, so yeah, vehicle 2 car. Okay, I'll run it again. Okay, I have a car. So we are good there. So simply depending on whether it's already checked or unchecked, whatever you want to do in your automation, you can use the drop down for that. That was about checkboxes. Now, same with option buttons. Now there is a difference. In option button, there is no check uncheck. Either you have to select some other option. I'll show you once the page loads. So these are two option groups. This is one group, this is second group as an example. So I press on HTML, and once it's selected, I cannot select it or unselect it once again unless I select some other option button of that group. So it doesn't have that checked unchecked sort of thing like a checkbox. So let's run it and bring it to its original state, and now create one subflow for checkboxes. I'm sorry, option button. Start the recorder. So if you can see, that done button at the bottom is difficult to get to, so that's why I'm minimizing it from the top, and now I can see. So I start the recorder. Let's see, we will select the third option of both the groups. Let's wait for it to identify the element. There it is. Label we don't want. This time let's try it with a right click. Yeah, there it is. So it says select radio button. So there is no check or uncheck or check the state of the option button. Straight away it will select the radio button. So I'll use that feature. On the right hand side recorder window, we will see two actions. This time, instead of right clicking, I will directly go ahead and click the third button so that I show you both the options. There it is. A third action has been generated, and for a change, let's right click on the submit button. There it is. So this time we'll use press button. Press button action is generated. I'm done. Let's wait for the flow actions to get generated. Okay, what do we have? Launching, attaching to the URL, selecting the option button from the first group. Let's see what options does it have. Just a browser instance and the correct UI element. That is the third one, JavaScript one. Same with the second group. That is the age one, 61. And final submission of submission button. Let's run this, bring it to the original state. Right click and run from here. The last option buttons of both the groups. So we have JavaScript and 100. Now why it is 100 even though that age was 61? Because the HTML is configured that way. If you can see, anything that is of a age group from 61 to 100 comes under age 3. So the value is 100 for that particular radio button, and that's why it's showing as 100 over here. Clear with option buttons? Okay. Okay. What's next? We have finished with the major controls. Now speaking of UI elements and selectors. Okay. What are UI elements? They are user interface elements like the ones we saw: text boxes, buttons, labels, list, checkboxes, frames, window, and so on. So what we did so far was using the recorder, but every time we won't be able to use the recorder for various reasons. Sometimes it could be the recorder is not capturing the elements properly, it's not giving the expected results. In those cases, we will have to create a UI element and then interact with it. That interaction is done using selectors, but first we will see how to create UI elements in first place. There are three ways to create the UI elements. From the add UI element button of the UI elements pane. Let me show you where that is. Now on the right hand side, so far we were working on the variables pane. Now I move on to the UI elements pane. So this is the add UI element that I'm talking about in this slide. This is one of the ways of adding a UI element. I'll be showing it to you practically. The second way is adding UI element button of respective actions used for UI based automation. So there are multiple options over here. Let me show you one action that we use, that is the press button. Now when I use this, can you see there is a drop down to select the UI element. So from this drop down itself, you can create a new UI element using the add UI element button. So this is one add UI element button. The second one is the one here in blue, and the third one is the one that we have already seen, that is the recorder. Now where can we see the UI elements? Obviously in the UI elements tab. So can you see all these are the UI elements that are already generated using the third option, that is the recorder. The UI element for button 4, for button plus 6, whatever we did using the calculator. Now there is one thing to know. If you see this icon over here, this is a Windows application UI element with a sort of a window like icon is there. When I click on it, it shows me a preview. Let's click on the button. This is the start menu that we used. This should be the 4 button. This is the plus button. Now, if this icon is for a Windows application, this icon is for a web application UI element. If you can see, we interacted with both the first name text box, last name text box, the submit. It shows the preview at the bottom. So this is how to identify the category of UI elements, whether it's a Windows or a desktop, or whether it's a remote computer or a local computer. Right now we are using a local computer. That's why everything is local computer over here. So three ways of adding UI elements. The third way is recorder. Already the UI elements have been generated here. Let's see the other ways. I'll take the second option, that is the from the already existing action. Now I know that I want to press that submit button. That's why I have used press button in window. Okay, before that, let me show you the group of actions for UI automation. Means Windows automation, like a Windows application like a calculator we saw. These are all the groups of Windows UI automation. If anything is there under data extraction, it is to read the data. As the name suggests, extraction, get the details of the window, get the selected checkbox, extract data from window, and so on. Whereas form filling means to fill something or write something, like populate a text box, focus a field, press a button. Reading and writing operations is the difference between them. Now this is the UI automation category. Likewise, there is a browser automation category specifically for browser related operations. Again, web data extraction is to read anything from a web application, extract data, get details, some of which have already been generated by the recorder. Likewise, web form filling means to write something, like set the checkbox, select the radio button, populate the text field, all that we have used using the recorder. So this is the way of identifying which actions you want to use. So right now, let's do one thing. We will use the simple example of the calculator because we are not going to launch it. We will open a clean flow. So we are now adding UI element. So if I know I want to click a button on a desktop application, I will go to the UI element, UI automation section, and I am not reading anything, extracting data. I am writing, means I'm clicking. So I will go over the form filling and press button in window is what I want. This time I'll manually keep the calculator window open at the background. And what I'll do is I'll capture the UI element of some button and see what it does. So I use the add UI element button. I go to the calculator. Let's say I press 5. I need to wait till the UI element picker shows up so that again it starts identifying. Now the way to it has started identifying, but I need to still capture it. The way to capture any UI element is using control and left mouse click. So I hover over the required element, wait for it to identify. So the button has been identified in red. On my keyboard right now I press control and left click. And I wait for it to capture. It actually captures quickly. There it is. Automatically the window gets closed and it goes to my flow. And can you see this UI element dropdown, which was blank earlier? After capturing the UI element for button 5, it has added something to it. It has rightly captured the 5 button. So now we will do is test this. That's why I wanted to use a simple. So the focus is right now on 0. I'll right click, run from here. It will automatically identify the correct calculator window because of selectors, and we'll talk about selectors in the after the UI elements are over. So correctly it has pressed the 5 button because I have added a UI element for 5. Now you can do the same thing for interacting with text boxes, checkboxes, and so on. So that was one way. Second way, as I said, was from the add UI element button from the right hand pane. As soon as I click on add UI element, let me open the calculator window because I closed it. I bring this down. Same UI element picker window has shown up. This time let's do it for 9. Let's wait for it to identify the element. Control left click, and this time it will not close the window. It will show me what I have captured. It is helpful if I want to continue my capturing. Earlier what it was doing in the press button, I just wanted to press one button, so I captured the right element, right button, and it automatically got closed. This time it keeps the UI element picker window open. Now when I click on button 9, it will show me a preview of what I have captured over here. I can continue capturing more elements over here, and it shows the root application, that is the Windows calculator application, and whether it's a local computer or a remote element. Let's click on done. It has not generated any action because we did not use any actions to create the UI element. Whereas in the UI element panel, it has created it will create a UI element for that button 9. This is the button 9. When I click on button 9, it shows me the preview. And now let's say I can use this UI element anywhere now using those actions. Let's say now instead of button 5, I want to select the button 9. That's it. I click on select button 9, save. Let's see if our calculator window is at the beginning. Yeah, okay. Now let's try to click the 9 button. Yeah, if you can see, even the mouse pointer has gone to the button number 9, the center of 9 button. So clear with 3 different options that we saw of adding UI elements. These 3. Okay. Okay. So now we are in the topic of selectors. Yeah. What are selectors? Selectors are used to uniquely identify the UI elements. They contain a combination of attributes that help us to point the right UI element, and what those attributes are: ID, name, class, text, etc. I'll be showing you these. So in short, selectors are used to point to the UI element. We will see a sample desktop application selector. We will see the selector window, how it looks, and how to test a selector. Okay, so desktop application selector is our calculator application. Now, since we have already captured UI elements, even the selectors for those UI elements have already been made available to us. Let's collapse the web browser set of UI elements over here and keep the the calculator one. So what I'm talking about is the button 4. Let's say this is the Windows application UI element. When I double click on it, it opens up a selector window, meaning the selectors for that button has already been captured by the tool. I'll maximize it. Now, what are the different parts of a selector window? Here you see the name of the selector, selector of UI element button 4. Then it automatically names it as default selector. You can even give it a name. For example, button 4, button 9, you can rename it. Then it automatically captures some UI elements of its own depending on how the calculator application was built. Now we are talking about the background of calculator application. Probably it was built in Microsoft .NET or any other application, for example Java. So those languages will have some elements of its own, and those are listed down over here. We need not worry about it. Pad automatically brings those elements in front of us in the form of this selector window. Then next to it, the attribute for this selected element. For example, I click on button 4. It will show me the attribute operator and value for that button 4. For example, the class ID is automatically selected. The ID is equal to num4 button because I have selected the one for 4. And yeah, uniquely identifying the selector is more about ticking and unticking these boxes, the right ones. We will see some tips and tricks on how to do so. And another part that you should know is the preview selector window at the bottom. So whatever options are ticked over here, those are shown up here in the form of a preview. So as soon as I untick ID, so if you can see button 4 ID num4 button, that is shown over here. Button, class is button, and then ID is equal to num4 button. As soon as I untick this, ID is gone. So that's a preview for you to know what you have selected, unselected, and I'll show more usage of this later on. So I'll bring it back to the original position. Now the way this is written is, I'll copy this preview selector, paste it to a notepad window, zoom it a bit. Now we were talking about the last part. So the structure is element followed by square brackets, attribute is equal to value. Can you correlate now? Element means the button element, inside bracket attribute means class, and the value of it is button. So ID is the attribute and num4 is the value. Let me show it to you here. The ID is the attribute and num4 is the button. This is the way of the format of how this is written. Now this is one element, button element, and the group element, that is the one coming from here. These both are separated using this greater than symbol. Can you see after window, greater than symbol, custom, greater than symbol, likewise window, UI custom, group. Clear with the selector window? Any questions so far? Okay, great. So that was about selectors and the selector window. Now testing a selector. Okay, I'll bring this to original state. open any random selector for the calculator application. So button 4 just now we saw, let's take button 6 this time. So this button over here is used to test whether our selector is pointing to the correct element or not. Let's do that. Let's click on test and wait for it to identify. Read the message at the top which says now testing the selector. Now can you see on the left hand side it automatically flashed a red border on button number 6. I'll show it to you once again. Keep a watch on the calculator window that comes up. Yeah, red border with the name default selector. Why did it show the name default selector? Because that is the name we have taken it over here. If I give some other name over here, it will show that particular name on the red border. And this green tick indicates that everything was a success. Again, all the elements, they are a success. So everything was captured properly for button number 6. Now let's do one thing. Go back to the button 6 element and I remove the ID attribute. This time, let's go ahead and test it. Did you see what happened? It pointed to button 7. Did you guys notice, or should I re-show? Okay. So as it was uniquely identifying using the num6 button using the ID attribute. As soon as I removed it, it went to 7. Why did it go to 7? Because it's a number and it starts from the top left corner of identifying the elements, meaning if this is the section 7, 8, 9 until here all are numbers. So top left corner 7th is the first number, and that's why the whatever tick boxes are ticked, those are pointing to the number elements. And I'll show you, this will make it more clear. This time can you see an exclamation mark is there, yellow exclamation, unlike a green tick. When I click on it, read what it shows. Multiple UI controls can be matched with the specific selectors. So it has matched. It did not show an error. It was able to successfully match, but multiple numbers were found that matched this selector. And the first number among this pane is 7, and that's why it's pointed out to the 7 number. Clear with this concept? Okay. Okay. Let's do something else now. Now let's remove this button 6 itself, the element itself. It's gone from the bottom, it's disappeared. Let's see what happens this time. I test the selector. Keep a watch on the calculator window. All the numeric elements have been selected now because I have removed button, a specific button. So what it is doing is to the group of number pad, this is our numpad, to the entire group it is pointing out. It is still incorrect, although pad was successfully able to point to it and multiple UI elements was not detected. Only one UI element was detected, which is this entire numeric pad numpad section. That's why it's a success over here. Clear with this one? Okay. Now let's do one thing. I'll bring it to the original stage. I'll click on button 6 and even the ID. Now I'll intentionally give a different ID over here. I type in 1 over here, intentionally give a new ID, and let's see what happens. I click on test. Now testing selector, default selector. Open the calculator, and can you see a red error icon is shown over here? Let me open. Testing of selector has failed. No UI element has been found on the screen. Why? Because we have changed something. So whatever default name was it in the calculator application to that ID, we have changed its value. So this is a failure scenario. Now you have understood multiple scenarios of how to try to rightly point to the correct unique UI element. There are still more ways. We will go through that. I bring it back to the original state and click on save. That was about testing the selector with a demo. Now this was about a Windows application. Let's see for a sample web application. So we are now going to see a web application selector. Okay, we actually already have web application selector. Uh, if you know, this is the icon to identify. So I believe the first exercise that we did was first name, last name, and submit for this web page. I'll double click the F name. This is the selector window for a web application. Same concept, everything is same. Just two elements are selected here, and if you can see at the bottom the preview, what two are selected, the inline frame, sixth one, and the 10th one, input frame. So you have preview for only those two, and even in input text F name, ID, that is F name, that is the ID of this checkbox, is shown over there. So ID is the HTML of it. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's see the ID from the direct HTML of the web page itself. My selector window is properly visible to you guys, right? Okay, so F name, this is the first name text box. Let's do a quick test and see whether it correctly points to the. Now for web application, as soon as I click on text, it will ask for me the browser tab. Since multiple browser tabs are open, it will ask me which one do I want. I want the one where my web application is present. As soon as I click on OK, it says now testing the selector. It will automatically switch to that window. And where is our default selector pointing? It's not pointing correctly. Did I do something wrong over here? Let me. Or probably we are on the correct web page, hopefully. We did multiple exercises, like already pre-filled values ones, empty ones. So if this is for the same one is what I'm trying to identify. Let's do for the second name and see last name. You can select the web browser tab from here also. Let's select the drop down. Click on test. Yeah, can you see the last name correctly selected? What happened to the first name during our exercise? Did we change anything? Let me retest it. First one had some value, is it you're saying? Yeah, there it is. I don't know. Somehow it went to the top left corner. So now it is correctly identifying. Let me click on test once again for the first name. Yeah, first name it's identifying correctly. Last name also it did. Let's do the for the submit button also. Test it. Select the browser tab. Yeah, correctly pointed to the submit. So now what I wanted to show related to web application selectors is, if I go to right click on the submit button and click on the inspect feature of the browser, it will take me to the HTML of that element, that is the submit button. Can you see it has pointed over the input type is equal to submit. If I hover my mouse over that, at the top also it gets selected. This is the last name over each of the HTML elements. Okay, so now my mouse pointer is on the submit button, the HTML of the submit button. So if I scroll up, what is the structure? You have a div, you have an iframe, you have an HTML head, body, form, and then come to the input box. Input box are text boxes in HTML. When I come back to this selector window, those same structure will be shown here in the form of elements. Body, div, 1, 2, 3, 4 times div is there, then an inline frame is there, and in the beginning there is a body. So let's see. Can you see there is a inline frame over here? If I expand head also, there is body. And if I start from the beginning, one body. So multiple, the point I'm trying to say is, okay, this is a better way. HTML body div is 1, 2, 3 and 4 divs are there. One iframe is there. Okay, the same structure will show up here. I'm just simply showing you how the HTML is captured in this selector window. So that the one that is shown at the bottom of the screen, it's shown over here, body div 4 times and then inline frame and then finally the input element. So the same preview of that is shown up over here. Input text is submit because we have only selected, no, we haven't even selected the, okay, there it is. Let me click, it's a bit slow. Yeah, the text is equal to submit. That is what we have ticked here, and that's what the preview selector shows up. Now, this is about a web selector. A slight difference you saw in how a web and a desktop selector is there. This goes based on the HTML structure, and the desktop selector goes based on the how the backend application is built. Now, modifying a selector using the text editor toggle. Okay, there comes the famous RPA challenge website for the text editor toggle. So we saw in the initial part of the course what this challenge exactly does. Downloads the Excel, reads the records from it and correctly enters them into each of these fields. And when you click on submit, the position changes. For example, first name is at the second position. I click on submit, it goes somewhere else at the third position. Okay, but the point is not about the position, it's about uniquely identifying where the text box is, and that's what we are going to see using the text editor toggle feature of the selector. Text editor. All these concepts are very important, required for automation. Text editor toggle. Okay, so indirectly we are going to build a custom selector or a dynamic selector. That is what we are going to do. Now let's capture first name text box. So if I right click on it and do a inspect element of the Edge browser feature, it will point to the HTML of that. And if I right click on it and copy its element and paste it over here, what do I have is this. Now our problem was when this gets submitted, the position of first name changes. So let's now recapture the one for the changed first name position. Right click, copy element, paste it over here. Now let's bring it next to each other and see what the differences are. Is the font good enough for you to see, or should I maximize it? Okay, so two different text boxes for the first name itself we have captured. So what does the HTML say? This is same. The label first name, both have the same name, but you can see the IDs are different and even the names are different. And this class is also same. So now if on every single submit, if the IDs and names of the text boxes get changed, how will we uniquely identify this particular text box? Let me show you to you in the form of a selector. Now I add a UI element using the feature that I explained. Go to RPA challenge. close this bottom pane. Where did that website go? Okay, here it is. So we are going to capture the UI element of the first name text box. Let's do a control left click, but okay, let's wait for it to identify first. I'll refresh the web page. Something got hung up while switching the screens. So this time our first name is over here. Yeah, now it has started identifying the elements. That's the way to troubleshoot also if something is not working fine. Okay, I accidentally clicked on something. So, okay, it's the address one. So DCP is the address one. Just remember that we will capture the first name one. Control left click and SMWTR. When I click on this, that is the one for the first name. The ID that we are talking about. We are talking about this section now. The ID of the first name is different. Can you see? 3 different times are 3 different IDs. Now I click on submit and try to recapture one again for the first name. And this time, let's see what ID it gives. Can you see again a different ID? First one you can ignore, it's for the address text box. Second one is for first name and third one is for first name. So can you see every single submit there is a different ID. So we cannot make use of ID in the calculator application. If you remember, we made use of the ID and then uniquely identified the 4 button, the 6 button. But in this case, we cannot make use of that. So for that, what we are going to do is in the selector window, there is this text editor toggle. We are going to make use of that. Now earlier I didn't capture the one for first name, so let me properly now recapture a UI element for the first name box. I hover the mouse over the first name text box, wait for it to identify. There it is. I do a control left click. There it is. It's captured for the first name. I click on done because we just wanted the first name. Go back to our flow. So can you see at the So generally whatever we capture, it comes at the last. That's why I scroll to the very last, and this is the RPA challenge web page, and this is the text box that we just captured. Now we are going to double click it. Now you cannot edit your selectors over here. It's a read only, the preview section. For that you have to go to the text editor toggle. Okay, and here you can do anything you want. You can add variables. Can you see a variable picker over here? You can add existing variables. You can type something, a new attribute, a new value, and so on. So we are now on the text editor toggle. I will wait here and now we will see what is the correct attribute that we can use to identify the UI elements. This was for first name. Now we have to do the same for the second name also, because whatever selector we capture, it should be applicable for all other fields also. So let's do it for last name. Right click, inspect element. This is the input HTML tag for the text box. Copy the element, paste it at the bottom. Why I have pasted? Because now I have one for first name, now I have one for last name. Now if you see the differences between these two, okay, something extra has come up, but we don't need that. The only difference I can see is in this attribute. This one shows label first name, this one shows label last name. Just for As a safe check, let's do it for another element, probably address. Right click, inspect, so that the HTML jumps to that. Okay, right click, copy element, paste it. Why is it? Okay, it's pasted. So can you see label first name, label last name, label address. So this is the only attribute where I can see the differences and I can identify based on these values. So what I want is this section in my text editor toggle. So ID is of no use as we saw. So what we want is this parameter, this ID and this value. So let's check a few things whether whatever we have done is correct or not. I'll close this. This time I'll intentionally refresh the screen so that whatever we have captured from the earlier screen will now disappear and the address will now go to a different location. Remember, our selector is for a address. So when we click on test, let's see if it points to the address text box. Did you see it pointed it to the address text box? Now intentionally we'll keep the selector same, but I will click on submit. Let's move submit to a different address to a different location. Let's see if the same selector works for a difference when the position of the address text box changes. Did you see it worked fine? Before finalizing this selector, before finalizing a selector, let's do one more submit and test it again. So no matter the position of the address, it's uniquely pointing to the address text box wherever it is. So what was the unique thing about is input is the name of the text box. We kept it as it is. We simply changed the attribute, that is ng reflect name, and label last name. We pointed it out. So again, between these three, what is common and what is different? The word label is common, if you can see. Now this is where we can make it more dynamic. We can simply use a variable here as first name, second variable as last name and address, and make it more dynamic, or we can even hard code that. But for now I wanted to show you how to use the text editor toggle. I will copy this, and one more thing I wanted to show about this feature is, if you remember, we had the selector window earlier and then we turned on this toggle and came back here. Now I will turn off the toggle, and what it says is whatever you have written here you will lose that, meaning whatever is in the selector window that will take precedence now. So it's either or. Either you use this previewed selector or go to the toggle. Now because I had copied it, I will paste it now, and this will take precedence now. Understood this part? You cannot go back. It will lose the changes that are there over here. So since we have identified this, okay, this was about label address. Now I have identified the correct selector. I'll paste it for future reference. Now we have seen in the notepad that the only difference is first name word, last name word, and address word. Now what we will do is we will add a UI element. Let's wait for the UI picker window. This time let me add a UI element for last name because first name is done. Control left mouse click. It has captured this. Let me click on it and see. Okay, everything is fine. Now we need not worry about whatever ID is there because we are overwriting it using the text editor toggle. So if you can see, it has got added to the end. So this was our earlier one for first name. This is the one that we just captured for last name. Now I simply open this and go to the text editor. We don't want what it already has. I'll paste the one that we saved for address. Instead of address, this time we'll simply do a last name. So are you seeing what we are doing? We are simply adding this value to the ng-reflect-name attribute. Now if this one is for last name, just for understanding purpose, I will go here, click on rename and type here as last name so that I know that it is the UI element and selector for last name, whereas this one was for address, right? Even though we captured it for first name, in the toggle editor we gave address. Okay, so that doesn't matter because it will override. Let's rename this to input text for address. Likewise, we need to create 7 fields for each of those text boxes, and we need to give label whatever is present in the HTML. By the way, you cannot give your own. Let me go to the, let's say this time email. You have to right click on it, click on inspect. Can you see this time the ng reflect name is label email because that's an email. So you cannot give anything on your own. Let's do the same for phone number. Can you see the caption is, even though the caption is phone number, can you see it just says phone over here? Hope you are getting what I'm saying. I'll copy it to the notepad so you'll get a better idea. So this one is for phone number. Can you see only this part is changing? Phone, address, last name, first name. So you create 7 elements for each of them, and that way you will have unique UI elements for all the 7 fields. Right now we are not going to do that because when we learn Excel part, then we are going to complete this entire challenge. Right now we have only done the part of identifying the selectors. Fine. So I did not show you variables and operators. We just saw the text editor toggle. Let's do that. So intentionally, let me take a variable, set variable. It's damn slow today. Set variable. Now what we are going to do is we are going to pass each of these variables inside that selector that we have captured. Let's this time do it for phone because we haven't done it. So this is label for phone, and I paste this over here. The name coming from this attribute value. Click on save. So either I can capture a new UI element or use the same one. So since we have named one for address, one for last name, let me do one for phone. I go to add element, go to the web page, wait for the UI element picker window. Hover the mouse on the text box. Yeah, there it is. I'll do a control left click. Yeah. So this time one for phone number. We can even use one selector for everything. That's going to be a different case. For now, we are doing 7 different selectors for 7 UI elements. If you are getting an idea of how we can use one selector for all elements, then you have a good observation. So this is for phone. Go to the text editor. We'll ignore all these attributes elements. Let's take the one that we had saved earlier, the notepad. This is what we had saved for all others. paste it over here, and we want the one for phone. But we are now going to the topic of using variables. I delete this, go to the variable picker, and what was the label? Label for phone. As soon as I do that, I should get one with a percent symbol and in italics. Okay, let's dynamically now test this out. So what is the value of that? It's label phone. Now why I have copied that label value is when I test it, because we are testing it, it doesn't know the value of this label. The tool, when you run it on when you do it on runtime, it will know the value. Did you see it asked me what should be the value for this variable? So our value is label phone. This is the testing feature. Okay, this is not the live run. During live it won't ask you. You will simply initialize the variable using set variable and it will automatically populate this variable. And when I click on OK, let's see if it identifies the label for phone correctly. Phone number is at the top. Yes. Let's not be satisfied. Let's check it for a few more submits. Let's change the position of the phone number. Okay, this time it is here. Let's do a retest. Label phone. Okay. Okay, correctly pointing to label 4 phone number. Let's do it for the third time. This time, yeah, this is a totally different horizontal type of screen. Where is our phone number? Over here. And test it. Give it a value. And yeah, for every single instance, it's correctly pointing to the phone number. This is the use of variables in the text editor toggle. Okay, and so when you run this application, what will happen is this variable will get automatically assigned the value of label for phone. It will pick that selector wherever you use it in any of the actions like click button or write to text box and so forth, and it will correctly identify that element and work as we have seen just now how it correctly identified. That was about variables. Now the next one is using operators. Let's take the calculator application now. Okay, we have some calculator UI elements already. Let's take num4. Let's keep the calculator window open. Okay, we have finished variables. Now we are seeing operators. I double click this. Let's do a quick check whether our selector is so far correct. It correctly identifies the button 4 on the calculator. It should, because we can see the button class and ID num4 button. Okay, correctly identified. Let me go a new fresh tab of Notepad. Copy this for number 4. And now do the same for another button, that is numeric button, number 6. Okay, can you see the differences? The first one, window, looks like that's same for both. Name, calculator, custom ID, that is also same. Even the group is same. Then the group class, that is also same. Both are numbers 4 and 6, that is it's coming from a number pad ID. Both are same. Class is also the button. The only difference is num4 button and num6 button. Now since we are learning operators, Now every numeric button has got this format: num and some number inside it and the word button. Okay, this is the placeholder. This can be replaced by any number: 6, 4, 8, 9, 0. This is the format. Now we go back to our selectors. This is the button 6 number. Okay, let's go to the ID where we are talking about that num4. Yeah, it's here, num6 that we are talking about. The operators that we are talking about are here. Now if you pull this drop down, you will see a wide range of operators. You can even do a regular expression match. Equal to is what we have already seen. Not equal to, whether this value contains some value, you can use contains. Starts with, ends with. Okay, now the test that we are going to do is, we have seen that it contains only this part changes, the number value changes. So what if I dynamically do this as contains and simply type in as 6 over here? Will it work? Because it contains the number 6, it should point to the correct button, that is the 6 button. Let's try it out. Six, yes, it's doing that. Let's do it for 9. Test. Perfect. 9 is also getting selected. Let's do for a different digit. Okay, 1. Perfect. So that was about operators, and one thing I wanted to show is how the syntax changes based on operators. I'll bring it back to its original state. What was it? Well, that's the benefit of storing in Notepad. So it was num6 button, the ID. I'm bringing it back to original states to show you something. So watch the selector preview window. ID is equal to num6 button. ID is equal to num6 button. As soon as I take an operator from here, the contains one, it adds a star or an asterisk mark over here. Okay, this is the different types of operators. If you use a not equal to, can you see an exclamation mark? A not equal to symbol is added. So this way also you can use it in the text editor toggle also, those operators. Now let's do a starts with a different symbol, caret symbol, ends with is a dollar symbol, and regex, regular expression, also has an @ symbol. You can even add some regular expression over here and uniquely point that particular element. I'll bring it back to equal to. That is what I wanted to show using operators. Variables we saw, operators we saw. Okay. Multiple selectors feature. So we are on the last slide before a practical exercise. Okay, multiple selector. We'll use the same application. So multiple selector is this area. Right now we have only one selector for button 6, but depending on the automation or the application you are trying to automate, you will definitely come across certain scenarios in your automation journey where one selector might fail, but another selector might pass. So we are going to see a same scenario. Let's intentionally give a failure scenario over here. I have added a 1. I showed you earlier how it goes ahead and fails this selector. Okay, there is a red mark, that means it has failed. Now I click the new button and re-add a selector for button 6. Let's wait for it. Okay, UI element button. Button 6, let's show, yeah, there it is. Control left click and automatically closes the window. comes back to the selector window automatically. Can you see a default selector 2? You can obviously rename it. Right now I'll keep it as it is. This is the first selector, this is the second selector. Now what will pad do is, this has the correct selector, that is num6 button. When I test it, it will go sequentially, check this selector. If this fails, it will pick up the second selector. Okay, it is correctly. Can you see the name? It showed default selector 2. Whatever name we had given here, it showed the same. If I give a new name over here, it will show that name over there. And can you see the first one has failed, but second one is a success, and all are success over here. This is the feature of multiple selectors. You can have more selectors also. You can click this. You can even move up, down and change the precedence. You can disable the selector, rename, create a copy of it. I can even create a copy of this and change the parameters of it just in case if I know one selector works, the second doesn't work. Okay, what repair selector is, it simply gives you an option to go ahead and re-add the selector so that if something is failed while in capturing, you can recapture it. That is the feature. And can you see the test drop down? There is a test all feature also to test all the selectors at once. First one failed, second one is pass. That's what we saw. Okay, what else do we have? Fallback mechanism. Click on save. Let's this time take a web application. Close any unwanted window. So the UI elements and IDs are changing for text boxes, but not for submit button. Let's check it out. What I'm checking is whether a dynamic selector is needed for a submit button or a static one. So copy. These are all features that we always require. The inspect element, going to the notepad, pasting the selectors. This is what I do while building bots. So I'll go to a fresh notepad tab now. Why is it stuck? Yeah. I'll paste it. This is one instance. Let's check for another submit whether it changes anything in the tag or not. Okay, I do a submit. I recapture the next submit buttons tag. I copy. So looks like everything is changed. Oh, sorry, everything is same and nothing is changing. Can you see? No attribute, no value gets changed. So I did not wanted to take a dynamic selector example for showing you the fallback mechanism. So what we are going to do is we are going to click the submit button using the fallback feature. Let's use a new subflow. Now, what is used to click the submit button? Can anyone tell me? We are on a web page. Which section action should I go over here? I want to press, yeah. So I'll expand browser automation. And again here, where do I need to go? I have two categories, web data extraction, web form filling. Yeah, while reading anything, extracting data, I need to go to web data extraction. Now we are writing something that is clicking on it, and we have press button on web page. Let's go here. Let's add a selector for that. Now simply I'm doing another approach of adding a UI element, not from the UI elements pane, but from an action. Okay, now let it identify the UI element. Earlier we used to do a control left click. Now let me show another way also. Hopefully it has identified. Yeah, I right click on it. I can use capture also. Another way of capturing the UI element instead of control left click. I'm intentionally showing you during different exercises the different ways. So we have, let's hover the mouse. Yes, we have the submit button. Let's click on save. And you know what? From here, using this pencil icon, you can directly go to the selector element window for that particular button. Okay. We are now on the submit button selector using the pencil icon. So this is the submit button. Let's click on submit. What is its text? Submit. Okay. Let's use the image as fallback feature. As soon as I clicked on that button, it brought me to this screen. This time, can you see? This time it is asking me to capture an image. So what it will do is, on the first click, using the conventional approach of the UI elements, if it does not identify the submit button, it will match an image that looks like the submit button, and it will, as a fallback mechanism, it will click on the correct submit button. So use hover the mouse over. What are the instructions written over here? Hover the mouse over the image to capture until the frame appears around it, and then click left click. Okay, let me do a control left click. Yeah, now the window has gone. It will come back to the flow. Yeah, that's blinking. There it is, the submit button captured. Two different selectors. One is an image that we just captured. One is the default conventional way of capturing selectors. Now what we will do is, we will intentionally try to fail this selector. Now it does not have the word submit. Let's add something to it so that it will fail. We will intentionally type something over here so that we will know whether it gets submitted or not. At runtime, whether it automatically captures the image and does a fallback. Let's see that. Run from here. No, web browser instance. Oh, that's right. We are directly using the action of a web browser. So this browser, we haven't initialized it. So let's take a copy from some other. Yeah, we copy this action and use it in our fallback, but it should correctly point to the RPA challenge window attached to a running instance by URL. This time our URL is RPA challenge. Save. Let's try to run it again. Initiating the browser instance. Let's give it some time for image recognition. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Did you see? It showed highlighted with yellow, and even the word John has gone from the text box. That means it has clicked the submit button. You guys saw it? Yes. So fallback mechanism, fallback as the name suggests, if something falls back due to an error, you can have a image recognition option, because some UI elements you are definitely going to face this. I have faced it multiple times. You won't be able to capture UI elements, selectors using the conventional way. You have to go with image based automation. There is something called as image recognition also. I will show you at the right time, but for now this is the fallback mechanism. And one last feature, that is collections. I go to the UI elements tab, go to a new flow. Oh, twice it has opened. Can you see this? Collection. Okay, now this is the way I selected the UI elements. I went to the three dots, publish as new collection. Let's say my collection is the name. I click on publish. What auto update is, I will let you know once I show you the feature. Auto update the actions in this flow to reference the selected elements from the new wherever applicable. So in the meantime, we are also opening a new flow called as collection. So in short, it is export from one flow and import into a new flow. What? The UI elements and selectors. This means you can reuse your UI elements and selectors in any other application. Let's say the same application you are interacting with using multiple desktop flows. That is what this feature is about. And they are calling it as a collection. So I think the export from there, the publish from there is done. Can you see this message? The collection, my collection, the name that I had given has been successfully created and published. And when I now go to the collections tab, it should show me that collection that I just created. Or rather it will be available from the, it's very slow, from the import collection. Can you see my collection has automatically added? Now I'm still in my original flow from where I exported my collection. I'm switching to a new flow called as collection, which is a totally blank screen. I go to the UI elements tab, go to collections, 3 dots, import collection, UI elements collections tab. Now this is a premium icon, as you can see with the diamond. I click on add. Until then it shows me when it was created, where, what is its size and so on. Okay, think so, memory issue. This should show up when I click on add. Let me re-add it. Yeah, selector desktop. It's importing. So if you remember, local computer was the top root element. It's not, I'm not using any remote desktop feature. Everything is on my local computer, the UI elements. So the message it shows is here, added in flow. Can you see? Our flow is totally blank. All the UI elements and selectors we practiced so far for web elements, calculator window, RPA challenge, everything has come up now in my new flow. Good with this feature? Perfect. We are on the last slide. You had some question, Mayura? Okay. We are now on the last slide, and that's a practical exercise. It's related to the calculator application. It's related to what we have learned so far. Nothing is going to be new. Little bit exploration might be required. So this is a list variable. Add items to the list separately as 5 plus 3 equal to. Okay. You can add it as per any of the two approaches that I've showed you. Since you have those variable links, I will suggest use the set variable option instead of the one by one add variable action. Do you remember the actions that I'm talking about? The two ways of creating list, one is dynamically and one is hard-coded way. Okay, so use any of those for your practice. In short, you'll have to create a list that looks like this. So each item of the list should be, okay, I'll give you this assignment. Don't do anything on your machine. Each item of the list will be each individual digit and mathematical operation. For example, 5 plus 3 equal to. So you will loop through each items of this list, add a UI element for any one of the calculator buttons. Any one of these buttons, only one UI element you should add. That is the important part of this assignment, because you are going to learn about dynamic selectors, custom selectors, using variables. So only one UI element. You will not add 4 elements for each of these buttons. Add one UI element to modify the selector of that UI element and make it so dynamic that it will work for each of the numbers from 0 to 9 and even the operators. So let's say there is 2 minus 1 equal to over here. You will have that one selector, one UI element that you added in step 3. It will automatically go into the button for 2 on the calculator. Let me open calculator. You're getting an idea. Let's say you created any random numeric selector, let's say for 7. That one UI element and selector you have for 7 button, you will use that same UI element and selector and do a 5 plus 3 equal to, using that same selector, and show it in a message box, the output. If you remember in our assignment, it showed displays 10. So like that, you will have to extract the value of that calculator. After doing a 5 plus 3 is equal to 8, the output should be displays 8. This should be dynamic for all numbers and operators, meaning if I go to my first step and give a different uh, arithmetic operation over here, for example 2 plus 7 is equal to, it should show me as displays 9 using only one UI element and one selector. That is the important part. Now if you see in the calculator window, this division symbol, we cannot type that in pad, so instead of that you can use this forward slash here. So 5 forward slash 3 equal to, when your flow encounters that forward slash, it should go ahead and perform a division on it, meaning 5 divided by 3 is equal to. Are you guys so far with me? Okay, I clear this, minimize this. So this is just an example. The output, you can even do a multiplication. I want all, I'm going to test for all these operators when you show it to me on Monday. Okay, 4 multiplied by 6 is equal to, so 4 into 6 equal to should be your list items, and output should show as display is 4 6 are 24. That should be your output. Did you understand the important part of only one UI element and only one selector? You are going to make it dynamic. You are going to pass variables, whatever is required to make it dynamic. I have showed you examples of how a single selector can be used for multiple buttons of the calculator or the RPA challenge. So then thank you and have a great weekend. See you on Monday at 6:30 p.m. Bye bye.